Hello and welcome to another episode of Elevate, a DBNC leadership podcast where we have conversations with non-traditional and diverse leaders. Enjoy! My name is Christian Fox, and today I'm very excited because I am joined by a very special guest, McKie Rich, an owner of a media production company. And honestly, I'm really looking forward to this.
Nice. Hi, Christian.
Hi, McKie. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for doing the podcast. As I said, I'm extremely excited. I think there's like nothing more exciting than media production and just everything that comes with it.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very selective industry and a very hardworking bunch of people that are a part of this industry, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
That's awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into the company?
Yeah, sure. So you introduced me. My name is McKie. I'm the CEO and owner of McKie Rich Productions, and we're a photography, videography, and graphic designing company. I started this little baby in 2018. And yeah, we've been going strong ever since. We work primarily in the GTA area, but we've worked overseas, in the Caribbean, in the States. So yeah, that's what we do.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So what does it involve? Like, what kind of work are you doing day to day?
So day to day, we're booking events, so birthday parties, corporate events, birthdays, any kind of special occasion, weddings. So we do photography, videography for that. Post-production, we do video editing, photo editing, and then we also do graphic designing. So posters, banners, business cards, anything tangible that you can hold, like we design those things.
Okay, excellent. It sounds like a wide variety of things. So it sounds like even though you're doing similar things every day, you're not doing exactly the same thing every single day.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that's what makes this job so fulfilling. It's not like my previous job. I'm coming from an admin background, so it's not like sitting behind the desk, invoicing or billing or answering emails every day. Sometimes I'm in the field. Sometimes, I'm shooting behind the scenes. I'm editing, customer service, accounting, promotion. So it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Now I'm always fascinated by this when I hear people like, starting their own company, especially something like media production. What led you to say, you know what, I actually want to go ahead and do this?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like I said, I started out in admin. I was working in the production industry for about 7 years, and I just wasn't happy. I was bored. I felt like my creativity wasn't being put to good use. And as a teen and adolescent, I've always been involved in art. So drawing, multimedia arts, some dance, a little two-stepping going on.
Cool. Excellent.
And then I went to college. I went to Centennial College for film and broadcasting. So when I graduated, I tried that out for a few years, and I found that wasn't like the right industry for me and my work-life balance. And then the next best thing beside film and broadcasting was photography. And I was like, okay, I'm really interested in this. I'm able to be creative through a lens, and that kind of started me on my photography, videography journey.
That's very cool. Yeah, that's it's one of those things where I find if you're a creative person, like it's something that you can't just
turn off.
Yeah, turn off. Like I've been doing, like here in my role, so I primarily do conflict resolution, which I enjoy, and I've enjoyed it, and I've been doing this for a long time. But as soon as our ED was like, hey, we're looking for people to do a podcast, I was like, well, podcasting? Yeah. I started that in 2020. I started my own podcast, and I loved it. Then I started a podcast with some other friends, and it's just one of those things where now I'm like video editing and production and podcasting, that's just becoming the thing that's like always on my mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting how those things just never turn off.
Yeah.
So Oh yeah, sorry, what?
No, I was just gonna say, I was just gonna add on to that. Like, we're in so much of a digital world right now that like everything is online, everything is easily accessible through a phone. So it just makes sense. It made sense for me anyway, just to have that creative outlet be something that I can share online with people. So
yeah. I think like it's amazing how much like I even feel like in the last 4 years we've become even more digital just because of dealing with COVID and lockdowns and all that stuff. It's become even more of a focus, and everybody seems to be involved or doing something like that in some capacity.
Yeah. And during COVID, like we took a big hit because a lot of our business is surrounded around events and people weren't going out, people weren't socializing. So we had to really like pivot our entire business. And that's when we started to really heavily offer graphic designing, because it was something that me and my team could do virtually from home and still keep the business running. So COVID kind of was a blessing for our business, because it allowed us to just be a little bit more creative and find different ways of offering different services.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how much COVID has really like forced people to adapt. And now I feel like in some ways, not saying that this is a better situation, but in some ways now we have skills that we didn't have before.
Exactly.
Because now we're much more used to doing things online.
Yeah.
Which is really been helpful.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I always want to like when talking to people about starting a business, to me that seems like one of the most daunting things ever. Like to me, there can't be anything harder than saying, I'm going to go into business for myself and I'm going to be successful at it.
Yeah.
What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced?
I faced a lot. First of all, starting your own business, it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much uncertainty. You don't know what you're doing. You're just kind of throwing yourself into this and doing your own research and trying to find things that work for your brand. The thing that I struggled the most with was finding clients. Like I had no backing, no reputation, a very small portfolio. So how do I get people to trust the service that I'm offering? So that was one thing. Pricing was another thing. Like, where do I charge people? I don't know. I'm not coming from any production background, so I'm cold calling, finding out what other production companies are charging, and then kind of basing it off of the experience that I had, which was not very much. So yeah, those two. Pricing, not knowing what to do, and kind of finding a work-life balance. At the time I was still working, my 9-to-5 job. So how do I find time to also invest into the business? So yeah, it was very tough when I first started out.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that. And so I want to shift focus a little bit, but we're still talking about like some of the challenges. But because, with our program, we try to focus on diverse leaders. And I'm just wondering like what kind of challenges did you face being a Black woman? Because I feel like in the film and video industry, it's very much male, white dominated.
Yeah, and it still very is. I've always come from the brought up sea of let your work speak for itself. So, when I walk into a space, I know what I'm there for. I know the task at hand, and I just focus on that. I get a lot of pushback. Being maybe younger, being a woman.
Yeah, being younger too also is...
Being, of color. So I have to face those barriers and just let people know that, yes, I'm knowledgeable in my field. I know what I'm doing, and let my work speak for itself. I can't really worry about the box that people are trying to put me in. I know what I'm there for. I know that I have the skills. But yeah, it's been interesting being in the field. I've had people ask me if I know how to operate a camera.
If you know.
Yeah, I've had people ask me if I know what ISO and aperture, these are all like technical photography terms, if I know what these things are. So it's interesting, I walk into a room, someone automatically assumes that I'm a model and I'm not there for production. So right off the bat, I know when I come into a space, I have to maybe work even 10 times harder than everybody else because the bar has already been set so low for me. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's that's got to like be, because I know you're saying you recognize it, you understand it, but that's going to take a toll on you to know that every time you go into a situation, you're having to perform 10 times better than anybody else just to prove that, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this.
Yeah.
Like I know about ISOs. I know what what ISO is. I understand the aperture. I get that.
Yeah.
You know.
It's not new. I'm dealing with it in this field, but pretty much in any field
Right.
that a person of color, a woman, a younger person, a person coming from the LGBTQ community, every industry that we're in, we're faced with these types of barriers that we have to just automatically overcome and automatically know that this is something that we might have to deal with and kind of prepare ourselves for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just seems like, yeah, there's so many different things that you're like, okay, I know people are going to like not trust me because of these reasons. And
Yeah.
like, even the H thing is like, there's nothing you can do about, like, there's nothing you can do about anything. It's just like, it's the way, you'll only get more experience by doing it. And
Yes.
you already know, you're already knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So having to prove yourself, that's got to be incredibly, incredibly difficult.
Yeah, but I find that my work speaks for itself, and that's what I weigh heavily on. Like, I have a really good reputation over the past couple of years within, the community that I work in, and people trust me, and people trust the work that I do. So, hey, if you want to question me about ISO, go ahead.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot. And so one of the things you mentioned earlier is that, yeah, you were trying to find the work-life balance, because it's not like this is a 9 to 5. You can just go in, do your thing and then leave. It's a business that you run. How are you finding how do you find that you're able to manage the work-life balance?
I find when I first started the business, I was wearing a lot of different hats, and there are many hats when it comes to running a business that I didn't necessarily think about when I first started. I thought, okay, I'll be in the field taking great photos and interacting people. I didn't think about customer service and online promoting and Facebook ads and e-commerce and booking studios and upgrading my equipment every couple of years. So these were things that I didn't even think about when I first started. But after a few years, you get used to it. And I found that I was almost burning out because I was doing way too much. And I was bringing some of my work home with me when I was supposed to be spending time with my family. And I'm there, checking emails and sending out invoices. So it got to a point where I had to delegate tasks and start onboarding different people to kind of help me with these day-to-day tasks. So if there was a gig at multiple different locations, I'm only one photographer. I might have to ask a few other photographers, a few other videographers to jump on board at a few different locations to get things done. Recently, we hired an assistant, that's
cool.
helping with social media and some of the back end admin stuff, and that's been great. I'm able to get back to basics and focus more on customer service and talking with people and the art.
Yeah, that's always the thing that I always hear about, because I'm looking at this and I've been looking at one of the things I've been seeing lately on YouTube is people that are own their own podcast studio that people can come and rent out.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I've been hearing is or that people talk about is the fact that, once you start a business, you really have to start focusing on all the other stuff, not just the creative aspect.
Yeah.
And then how do you find that balance of getting back to the creative aspect? So that's great that you're it sounds like you have a pretty big team. It's cool that you've hired your own social media assistant.
Yeah. Shout out to Isabel. Awesome,
Okay,
you're great.
cool.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, so we talked a lot about, starting the company and, finding the balance. You've hired Isabel, which is great. What has been one of your proudest moments in this line of work?
That's a good one. I've never been asked that question. I think the proudest moments are when I see people actually using my artwork, so using photos that I've taken or using a logo for 10 years and they just love the logo so much. I'll scroll through online and I'll see profile photos, of photos that I've personally taken. And just feedback, testimony. Every so often, we ask people or ask customers, like, how did you like our service? What are things that we can change? I love the feedback. Constructive feedback, I think, is just, it's something that you have to have as a business owner. You don't know everything. You're not doing everything correctly. And the people that you're working with can tell you, like, hey, maybe you can fix these few things. And yes, I think the customer feedback and actually seeing my work being put to use is like the best feeling ever.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's got to be amazing. So I didn't know. So you do logo design as well?
Yep.
Okay.
So anything in the graphic designing realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So when you're scrolling through Instagram, are you seeing, because you said you've seen logos, are you seeing like professional, like headshot pictures?
Yep.
Kind of things? Because I remember, just for the behind the scenes, we actually met at DBNC's Black History Month event, and you took a picture of me, and I actually haven't been able to see it yet, but from what I saw, I was just like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That was really, really good stuff.
We took that photo in 5 minutes.
Yeah, in 5 minutes. And
Yeah.
you were doing that for everybody. People were coming by, getting their photos taken.
Yeah.
And you had like a really cool setup, by the way. I was
Thank
very,
you.
very envious.
Thank you. Yeah. Our setup and, our lighting and different techniques that we use to kind of get that crisp look, that professional look. It's something that we've worked really hard towards. We've done like a lot of studying, and, the competition is so big now. We have all these phones and, all these iPads, and every day, a new piece of technology is coming out that's widely available for everybody. So we have content creators, which I love, but, we're in competition with these people that have cell phones, and we have to stand apart. Like, what makes my work different than 100 other people out there that's also taking photos, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just finding our niche and just staying true to our brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what are some of the strategies like for that? Because even seeing the iPhone 15 coming out, and now people are like, and I like, there's some photography channels I follow, and they're like, man, this is getting really good, to the point where it's like, man, it's not quite there being better than an actual camera.
Yeah.
But now that it has like S-Log and it's getting closer, like, how are you able to overcome that?
I feel like when you walk into a corporate event and you're showing up as a media production, it looks a little strange when you're showing up with just your cell phone.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right? It just makes it look like the average Joe can do this job, and there's no, feel like there's a lack of professionalism and experience. So when I walk in with my camera, like, this is my instrument. There's a lot of conversation about, like, you have to have the best camera in order to take the best kind of photos or the best kind of video. And I don't necessarily agree. I think it's more your creative eye and using the tools that you have. And anyone can take a really great photo if they have that creative eye. The equipment obviously does matter at some point. Editing, which is pretty much standard in our industry, how you edit is something that obviously matters. Your video quality, 4K, HD, all of these things, I think are more... you can see that professionalism more with an actual camera versus a cell phone.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I hope it stays that way, because I'm like, I don't ever want cell phones to become as good as cameras.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Like, one, cameras are better right now, and two, it does have that, especially if you are going into an event and you are the professional, to have a cell phone. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't look like, okay, like any Joe can do that.
Yeah.
But when you have a camera, it's like, no, this is something that I know how to use really well.
Yeah.
I've been crafting my art for a long time. I've been honing my skills, and I'm going to share that with you. So yeah, I think that's so true, and I really, really hope we don't ever get to that point. Even though I'm all for technology and improvement.
Of course, because when I first started, like, content creating with a cell phone, it wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
right? And now it's like a secondary thought that you have to think about when creating, high quality productions. You gotta have to record behind the scenes on your cell phone. Sometimes a client may want, photo, video, behind the scene, drone, POV, right? So there's
Yeah.
all these different things that have now come about that weren't even around when I first started.
Yeah, and it's amazing because I'm scratching my head thinking 2018, that's when I started here, and I'm like, that's not that long ago. That's only a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But it's 6 years ago now, and I'm like, man, like technology really has come a long way, in just terms of like the ease of use, the fact that now people can
Yeah.
create content with their cell phones. But yeah, it's just amazing. And then, so what kind of drones are you using? Are you using them a lot?
We're not using drones a lot, but we do offer mostly for our weddings, like POV over the head shots. Our clients love those drone shots, so we will onboard a third person. There's special licensing and
Right.
permits
Yeah.
and stuff involved in using a drone, especially in the city. So, yeah.
That's very cool. That the drone's another piece of equipment that I don't have yet. And I've been trying to justify it, and I can't, because they're very expensive. I'm like, I can't
They are.
justify that for what I'm doing.
Right.
But one day,
One day.
I would love to have that option.
Yeah, it's a great option. And that's another thing that stands you apart from someone walking in with a cell phone, right? Cinematography wise, how are you getting different angles and how are you conveying a story to the audience? And we do that through, very selective angles, lighting, placement. So it's a huge thought process. And we spend a lot of our time like head in paper, jotting down, how is this going to look? What's the final product?
Right. Yeah, it's almost like you're storyboarding then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's very
absolutely.
cool.
Yeah.
Now, you said cinematography, which obviously you're doing that all the time. Now, have you thought about ever like doing something like, I guess not necessarily part of the company, but like a fictional film, like a short, like 10-minute film ever?
Yeah, I do have a short film that
Ah.
an amateur short film that's out there on YouTube. I can put the link. I can send you the link.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
But it's very amateur. It was before I knew anything about the industry. And it's a short story about a Caribbean family that's struggling with Alzheimer's and dementia. But I think for the time being, I am going to focus just on this industry. But later on down the line, it is a door that I would like to step into, creating another short film or a documentary. That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. Because I don't know if I've actually said this on the podcast before, but I'm in film school right now.
Okay.
And so it's not coming up. Well, actually, the documentary course is coming up in April, where we have to shoot a short documentary. But our final project is to shoot a short film.
Okay.
And now I'm like so excited. I've got the script ready to go, and it's just like whenever I'm meeting or talking to people who are like into this stuff, I have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I just think that that sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I've never done it before, and I'm hoping some of these skills will come into place.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's very cool that you have a short film, and I definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. I think the total duration of the film is maybe like 5 minutes, and we spent days filming this. We had a cast of maybe like 10 to 15 people.
Wow, that's a big cast for
a short film.
Yeah, for a short film.
Right?
Yeah, that's very cool.
And we had to location scout. We had wardrobe, makeup, grip, lighting. Like there's so many different roles on a set. And for a 3-minute film, we spent hours, days like preparing and take after take and making sure that we're getting it right. But it was fun.
Yeah,
it was fun.
That's very cool. Yeah, it sounds like I just can't wait to get into that because in theory, I mean, from what I've heard people talk about and seeing directors talking about their movies, I mean, it sounds like a really fun process, but I really don't know what's involved. So I'm curious to see, okay, what is it actually going to be like?
Yeah.
And then even like we're trying to shoot a documentary for DBNC.
Okay.
And that one's moving slowly, but we're making progress. And I'm just curious to see how that's going to turn out.
Yeah.
Because that's also very different from a short film. That's I'm excited, but it's definitely very daunting. And it's cool that you've also done, you said documentary work too.
Yes, yeah. So at Centennial, we did a lot of documentary work, short films, kind of going out into the community. I remember there was a short film that we were doing around homelessness. And this was my first experience actually being out in the field and talking to people and getting people to be comfortable on camera, to be vulnerable on camera. And just the art of storytelling, it's great. I find a lot of interest in hearing people's stories and their vulnerability being on camera. The camera is something that not everybody's really comfortable with. And sticking a camera and a mic in front of someone's face that, is struggling with, addiction, homelessness, poverty, it was a very eye-opening experience, a very humbling experience. So, that was in college. And after that, it's just been growing and expanding my art.
It's very cool. So what's next for you, or that you're hoping to do down the road?
No, can I spill the beans? Can
Yeah,
I
I mean, if you want to spill the beans, I'd love to. It'd be great. Do it if you're comfortable, of course.
Yeah, no, I think we're still just gonna focus mainly on expanding our production team. We want to do some work overseas and kind of onboard some photographers and videographers overseas. So that's what I can say about that for now.
Okay, very cool. So a couple of last questions. One, what advice would you have for people who are new to this world and trying to get in, especially like if you are, a Black woman who again is not going to have to like do extra, even more work just to say, hey, look, I deserve to be here too.
Yeah. I would say start earlier. Like for me, I wish I'd started earlier. The advice I would give is don't give up. Stay true to yourself. And if you're really passionate about something, just keep going. You're going to get pushback. You're going to feel like, oh my goodness, this is too much. This is too hard. You might not see any results after year one, but don't give up. Just keep pushing, keep learning, be willing to expand your knowledge and take criticism, take feedback from other people. Don't take everything to heart,
Right.
And just keep pushing, keep going.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that I think so many things that you've said, like start earlier. I think that's so true. Like it's one of those things where I feel like people don't necessarily think of this line of work as, oh, that's something I can easily do. Yeah. It's not like, especially with a lot of families might not want you to go into it because it's not guaranteed. But I think you're right. Start early and taking things to heart, I think, or not taking things to heart is always like the fine balance.
Yeah. I think Black women in Canada are the highest ranking entrepreneurs in the country. So there's space for us. There's space at us at the table.
Right, exactly.
And if people are not allowing you to sit at the table, build your own table, stand at the door, go in through the window, however you need to get there because there is a space for you. And it doesn't matter, don't pay attention to what other people are doing. Like I said, stay true to yourself, find your own way of branding and, targeting your niche demographic, and people will welcome you. I've had people reach out to me from all over the place. Like, hey, I met you at a pop-up shop, or I saw an advertisement at a bus stop, and, I want to support you. I want to support your business. Let's work together. And I think having a good reputation within the community also helps with that. Like, we don't do a lot of marketing in terms of ad promotion or radio promotion. Right now, a lot of our referrals are word of mouth. So people like what we do, they tell a friend, they tell the next friend, and then next thing you know, we have a community of people that really trust what we do and have confidence in the services that we provide. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's almost the best to know that you have a network now. People are like, okay, no, we can recommend you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. And vice versa, right? Someone recommends us and we work with a lot of people. We work with models, we work with stylists, makeup artists. It's a community, so we help each other out. If someone else is looking for a makeup artist, we're like, oh, here's one of a preferred vendor that we've worked with. Hit them up, email them, see what they can do for you. So it's within the Black women community, it's great. We're all empowering and helping each other. And I know there's a lot of gossip on, we don't work well together. It's very catty, but I haven't experienced anything like that. And I've been doing this for over 10 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's definitely some good advice. Now, my last question, one of my favorite questions to ask is if you could go back in time and talk to your 16-year-old self, what advice would you give her?
Oh my goodness. Your price is your price. Yeah. Start earlier and your price is your price. Like I said, when you're starting out, you don't know much, right? So a lot of it is trial and error. And I think really sticking to your guns, and not allowing yourself to be swayed or people telling you, oh, well, Joe down the street is charging X, Y, and Z. Can you match that or can you go under? And because you want to get the client so much, you want to get the business so much, you're compromising your business values, or you're compromising the amount of work that you're actually doing. So yeah, I would say stick to my price. 16-year-old, stick to your price, and listen to your gut. If you want to do something, just go for it. Don't be afraid. You're never gonna know what it's like unless you actually try it, and then you can say, okay, I tried it, I don't really like it. Let's try something else. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's always, I always hear that from people that, you know what, just trust yourself, go with your gut, and if there's something you want to do,
Just do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a lot of, people are always going to have an opinion on what it is that you should be doing, whether it be family, parents, partner. And I feel like there's so much pressure sometimes in the Black community for us to go into certain avenues of work that end up not being fulfilling for us. We end up, completely pivoting and doing something else like baking or, and these are things that we probably should have tried to indulge in the first place because these are the things that we were passionate about, right?
Yeah. Yep. So true. Exactly. And that's just something, again, just find your passion and go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you so much. It's been a great conversation. I'm really glad you were able to come today.
Thanks for having me, Christian.
Anytime, and you're welcome back anytime, even with new business updates.
Absolutely. I'll see you in a few months.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.